We'll do it as.
Very much. Good afternoon and welcome to the Town of Rocky Mountain House. This is the regular council meeting for October 3rd of 2023, and I'm going to call this meeting to order. The Town of Rocky Mountain House wishes to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is Treaty 6 territory and a traditional meeting ground and home for many Indigenous peoples, including the Blackfoot, Cree, Saulteaux, Stoney, and Métis. Adoption of the agenda. To adopt the agenda for October 3rd, 2023. Is there any additions or deletions from this agenda? So I do have one item I'd like to add. I'd like to add 9.3, World Teacher Day, to correspondence for action. Does anyone have any objections? Seeing none, I'll make a motion. Oh, Councillor Phillips, did you have something to add to the agenda?
No, I was just going to make a motion to.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll make the motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. So today we have a delegation, and so I'd like to welcome Kevin Stalker and Alfred Van Hollen. Is it just the two of you? Yes, okay. To present from the Rocky Taxpayers Association. And so welcome, gentlemen. And I'll just remind you that to speak clearly, and if you press the red button on the microphones in front of you, then YouTubers can hear as well. Yep.
Okay.
No, it shouldn't be any feedback.
Well,
Thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you, Council, for giving us this time to make our presentation. I'm going to read this document, and I'd like to introduce myself for anybody who's not familiar with me. I'm Alfred Van Hollen. I'm a director with the Taxpayers Association of Rocky Mountain House. The RTA is a registered Alberta not-for-profit society and was formed almost exactly 1 year ago in October of 2022. We now have 140 members consisting of residents and taxpayers within the municipal boundaries of the Town of Rocky Mountain House. The RTA was formed to give a voice to taxpayers, support transparency, and provide timely feedback to elected officials around town expenditures. We are here before you today to seek clarification on your position as individuals, mayor, and council in relation to a number of specific requests the RTA has made related to solid waste management. The RTA has sent numerous email requests over the past year related to costs incurred as a result of the disbandment of the regional waste agreement with the county. For your reference, the following is an excerpt from Councillor Auld's response on behalf of Mayor and Council dated May 18th, 2023, informing the RTA that, and I'm quoting, "This information you are looking for is not regular disclosure without doing a FOIP request due to the complexity of the request. This would entail a significant amount of time and expense on behalf of the town, so you would need to go through the proper FOIP procedure to obtain the requested information. This is a procedure that anyone is able to access. The RTA is no different. They just have to submit the request and pay the associated fee." It should be noted that Councillor Auld's response was on the same day and within 5 hours of the initial request. The questions that arise are, did Councillor Auld respond on behalf of the mayor and council? And in addition, does his response reflect the unanimous wish of council? The RTA in our May 18th, 2023 email asked 4 reasonable questions around significant expenditures. The RTA believes that these 4 questions should be addressed with transparency, and the information should be readily available to the public. If you already know the answers to the RTA's questions, then it should be easy to provide the answers to these questions. If you do not know why the expenditures have happened, then it is the position of the RTA that it is your responsibility to understand the rationale for the expenditures and provide transparency around those decisions. Okay? The RTA would like to understand where each council member and the mayor stand using FOIP to provide transparency for significant town expenditures. Is it your position that a member of the public, or in this case, the RTA, a volunteer organization representing the taxpayers, will have to use FOIP and pay to learn where and why the solid waste handling agreement with the county was dissolved, the costs of that decision, and why $428,000 was spent in 2022 in addition to the contracted solid waste service cost?
So I don't know if there's any questions of clarification, and I'm going to ask the question specifically of each counselor, just so that our membership will have a understanding where people stand. The feeling of the membership and the board is that with 140 members, we're looking at over $500,000 worth of taxpayers' money already being put into supporting the community. We don't feel there should be a need for using FOIP. And I've said this before, this isn't a $10,000 expenditure over at the shop for an engine. This is $428,000. There's been some other questions, there was 4 questions involved. And we believe that truly is the responsibility of council to go hold it. How was that spent? Is it going to reoccur? And make sure that expenditure, if it is going to reoccur, that's fine. Nobody would suggest that we can get all the things right, but we want to know whether or not the council has an interest in the better part of $500,000, because I believe the 2023 budget for solid waste was $71,000 short. So we're up to almost $500,000. The public are looking for that information and do not feel, and represented by the RTA don't feel so. It will, I don't want to put you on the spot, but on the other hand, the public wants to know, as does the RTA, if the group supports us using FOIP as opposed to our duly elected representatives would know what that is and just pass that information on to us.
Okay.
So
So.
I don't know if you have any questions, and then I will ask the question of each individual counselor
Yes.
and go from there.
So, as the chairman of the council, I'm just gonna say that that's an unusual way to present to us.
Okay.
I feel that each individual counselor's allowed their own personal opinion on things, but then generally what happens is we have a discussion and we come together as a group and make the final decision. And so putting everyone on the spot, I think, is not necessarily fair without having been able to prepare for this. So I'm just gonna put that out there, that it's just not a normal way of presenting to us to ask questions. I'm certainly with administration here, we could answer some questions, but generally speaking, our FOIP request, so I'll answer to behalf of the May 18th email, was Councillor All replied to it. He was the first one to see the email and he addressed it. Now, if it was upon himself or if it was upon the whole group, in his email, he would have said on behalf of all of town council, or it's my personal opinion, but if he's just giving you a piece of information, I'm fine with him presenting the information. So I don't think it's a problem at this time how he answered it. And I'm certainly, if anyone feels differently that he answered the information in that email, they have an opportunity to speak up now. So I wanted to say that. Councillor All, did you want to reply to that statement before I continue?
Yeah, I can reply to that. It was discussed in council as far as what is the policy and how we run our day-to-day business. If it falls within the FOIP policy and procedure, then that's exactly how we roll with it, so. I'm not speaking for council, that's the policy, so that was the information I gave.
So what was confusing in the email, I believe, to our board is that the other councilors are all CC'd, yourself, Your Honor, and the other councilors were CC'd, which then, and there was no opinion expressed. So the issue becomes a question of where the responsibility lies when the better part of $500,000 is spent. And I won't put everybody on the spot to ask, do you know where that money was spent?
Okay, so I can answer where the money was spent, because we did discuss it at our service level review and at our budget talks last year. So there were assumptions made on the dissolution of the partnership with the County of Clearwater. And this is my understanding, and I hope that Mr. Kraus or Betty Quinlan feel free to interject with my explanation. So the 428, okay? What happened was there was assumptions made on garbage collection and costs and volumes when previous council moved forward with the dissolution of the waste authority. And so when we questioned that, some of the assumptions proved to be inaccurate. So they were a good best guess, and they turned out to be inaccurate. And some of them were on the volume of garbage that we were collecting and the amount of recycling that we thought people would take up on, and the amount of garbage, because the green bin had already previously begun. When they had done a review of what goes into your black bins, there was a high volume that should have been in the green bin. And so some of those assumptions were inaccurate. And so therefore there was a shortfall in the budget and this is what was explained as a 428. So we took that out of reserves, hoping that we could make some changes with telling the public to do more recycling, use their green bins, and with the small fee that we put on for users at the waste treatment center. We talked about that in detail to try and cover some of the costs that the original assumptions made. So it's been talked about that we have money coming from the cells in refund because we've left that partnership. But I feel strongly that that was a capital expenditure. I personally feel strongly, and we've discussed it, that cell money should be set aside for the insurance of the cell that's remaining so that it's not a burden for taxpayers, and that it just be there until a little further down the road. Administration has come up with a lot of cost-saving measures in order to reduce the 428 to the 71, is that 271? 71.
So, yeah, it was just over 200,000 in 2021, 2022. 2023 was a $70-some thousand deficit, and we're budgeting for zero this year.
And so,
Sorry, is that for the cell?
no,
room?
this
No,
is
this
for the
is collection.
whole
collection, thank you.
collection.
Okay.
And the 428 then was a number that was,
So, Your Worship,
because I know that was a
yeah. So,
428
Your
was a
Worship,
number.
where the 428 figure comes from was our year-end financial statements, which showed a total deficit of that amount. Now, 223 was from the operating budget, which was budgeted for, as I explained to you before, Mr. Stalker. And the other funds were for the leachate control out at the landfill. So the town and county have an agreement, along with Caroline, that everyone's responsible for the leachate for the industrial cells at the landfill. So that figure each year could be 0 to 200,000 by the agreement. It depends entirely on the rainfall, the type of season, how much leachate comes out of the cell. and those funds come out of our reserve for that specific expense.
And so then you can see at council, we have made a lot of decisions collectively to do our best to make the utility, what we collect from citizens, balance the budget. So we did a bunch of changes as best that we could to make our budget work. Does that answer your question about the 428?
I think that helps, and in fairness to Mr. Kraus, he has been very open and tried to help. What we wanted it is in writing, this is the items, bling, 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 200,000 for cell or managing the cell and all those things. Put it in writing, simple, it's probably half a page, not even, so that we can put that to the membership and say, here's how it's broken down, and fantastic that we're looking at there's not going to be a cost, or we're not looking at a cost in '24, I believe. Is that what? So 71,000 this year and none next year is what we're hoping to get to. And
Yeah.
nobody's gonna hold you to zero. We just wanna kinda
Yeah.
have is this thing going off the rails, or are we heading
Yeah.
into the green
We've had
pasture?
a number of council discussions on, and I can have Councillor Phillips add to that if you would like.
Yes, thank you. So part of the overarching waste discussion that's missing from this part of the conversation is the extended producer responsibility. That's the province of Alberta has the EPR coming in, and it takes effect April 1st, 2025. So part of the waste discussion that's been ongoing for years is we know EPR was coming. We know it was happening. We know it's finally coming. And that will actually produce savings to the town of Rocky Mountain House for recycling, because EPR is holding the producers responsible for the recycling products and the end-of-life use for those. So basically what will happen is every product, every can, every packaging, all of these producers will be paying money towards EPR. That will be a program that will be done for household, I'm just gonna make it simple, household recycling, and then there's hazardous recycling, which is paint and electronics and things like that. So they're gonna be managed by two different entities, but it will be a provincially run program, and those programs will produce money back to the town of Rocky Mountain House. So yes, we had a deficit in 2022, 2023, 2024 were balanced. When EPR comes in 2025, we should start seeing some money coming back. So it's been a long process, but that was the end goal kind of 6-7 years ago when it all started. And now we're gonna start seeing that in 2025.
Thank you,
the
thank
one-
you, Councillor Phillips. And so really what he's saying is that some of the decisions we've made as a collective council is in preparation for the EPR. And so we may have to pay for it as a municipality, but the benefit in the long run is if we already have those services in place when EPR takes effect in the near future, and every year they are, the finish line is it being adjusted over the last little while. So certain decisions we've made on council for the blue bins and things like that may have put us in a deficit that we've taken out of surplus or reserves or whatever the word is, so that once we have those processes in place, then the government pays for it through the EPR, and it's off the taxpayers, but if we didn't have those in place, then they wouldn't cover those. And so that was another decision that council discussed. So I hope that gives you enough answers about solid waste. And if I could just address the FOIPing.
Yes,
And
that's what
so
we need.
we did discuss as a council about the FOIPing because of the burden it puts on staff administration that takes them away from their regular everyday duties and tasks. And some of the information is readily available on websites and things like that. And so please, like, the answer that Councillor Ald gave is pretty close to the accurate, and it's unfortunate that a not-for-profit is wanting that information and things like that, and there's just no other way, but it shouldn't be up to taxpayers to have our administration that's in charge of everyday duties for running the corporation of the town of Rocky Mountain House be taken away from their everyday jobs in order to find documentation and photocopy it. And that was sort of like a user pay system, which we feel very strongly about as a full council. And we will provide you with as much information as we possibly can and answer questions, but that's sort of what the council has came up with, if that makes sense to you.
I understand that, and we've run over time. I didn't expect an answer in relation to garbage, and thank you very much for kind of, if we had that in writing, because now
Yeah.
either have to write watch the meeting. The issue of the garbage, the closure of the dump, the cost of the additional dump was part of that request.
Yeah,
As a council, a mayor and council, I would hope that representing the taxpayers, you go, okay, how much did that cost? Was it 100,000? Was it 20,000? And that wouldn't have to be FOIP'd. And this is the difference in an opinion, because if you don't care where that money is spent, and I hate to put it that way and put you on the spot, but that is what it would appear. And people are still asking, when we're on Main Street, is why did they move the dump, and then why
Okay.
did we move back? And that explanation, I don't know if you care about that.
Okay.
The people that have elected you care.
right.
And they would like to know that, and
So-
they don't feel we should have to FOIP it. They feel, as
Right.
our membership feels, that should be open, transparent, should be provided for how much it costs to move there, move back. And I'm not saying whether it was right, wrong, or indifferent, just the cost that was associated with it. Have I covered that, Alfred?
Yeah, we can move on.
So, I'll just tell you from my perspective as being new to council, is that some of the decisions that previous council made are outside of our wheelhouse. Like, we are doing our best to deal with the situation in front of us. We can't go back to a decision that was made previously. Even some of our own decisions that we've made while on council during our term, we can't go back and adjust. And that's just part of being like elective representative. If, for example, any one of us, we have to just move forward. And so moving forward, we're doing the best that we can, I feel, to move forward and make good decisions for our community. We don't always agree, and I think every person here would say that they're trying their hardest to be informed, prepared for meetings, and make good decisions for the whole community.
Well, on my behalf, I would say that when you told us where this 200,000 out of that 428, the 70,000 and stuff, that helps to clarify where this overrun came from. And I appreciate that. That's what we were looking for. That was the whole thing. But again, the bottom line was, do we need to FOIP as a group these kind of things that we thought should just been able to come forward like they did just now? And that was awesome that at least we got those questions now without having to go to FOIP to get those. And that was what we were hoping for in the first place.
Yeah. Some of the information is actually quite complicated is maybe not the right word, but intricate. So it's not like one ticket item that you can find on line 5 in the budget or on the thing is the full reason for overages. And we're trying really hard to ask questions of administration on budget line items and make good decisions.
So we have.
Counselor Hutchinson, did you still want to add something?
I do. Thank you for coming today. Typically, a delegation is you come and present, and if we need more information, we ask, and then we'll discuss it as a council, as a group later on in the agenda. So I guess my question that I would ask of you, is there a specific 1 or 2, 3 questions that you could give us right now so we can bring it back later in the meeting? Possibly if we need more information from admin, then that's a request coming from council so that we can, we can move forward. Is it a paragraph, a summary that you wish, like what exactly, if you may,
I,
could give us?
the email of May 18th, I believe it was, had 4 requests in there, and the one has been answered. Those 4 requests, if you could revisit that, and I don't think I don't think you have the time to do it today, and I don't think it's right that you don't have time to think about it at all. Like, it's not that big a rush. But if you could revisit that email and say, okay, this is what people are looking for an answer. Do we have the answer readily available, and give it to them? And if it's something you say, look, this is obscure, they need to pay, and that's a FOIP one, then that's fine as well. So I don't, like, if you reviewed that, the content of that, because it came back really quick, so I don't know who saw it, and I didn't see it being discussed. With that said, we've run far over our time. What I do want to do is really compliment mayor and council for it isn't an easy job, and although you're going to be put on the spot, and I'm fine not putting people on the spot, we just want to work together. I want to really thank you for the committee in a whole, and Councillor Phillip bringing that back and putting that online. We had a number of people on Main Street talk to us and saying that's great, that they just get to see the discussion behind the scenes, and that supports transparency and community. And I'm not suggesting for a second that somebody won't take a run at you for something you said, but we got thick enough skin. But thank you very much for that.
And I just wanted to say, I'm perfectly fine with delegations coming and asking us questions. One of our strategic plans was to be open and transparent and have better communication. And it's difficult when we're finding it difficult even communicating amongst ourselves, and we're trying to find the best path forward with communication with the public and with each other and administration to make the best decisions possible. So I appreciate you coming, and thank you very much.
And thank you for also being on Main Street. You're taking
Yeah.
that coffee with the public. That was awesome. I think that's a wonderful thing you did, to be able to meet with the public. So thank you on behalf of us for doing that in the summertime.
Okay, thank you very much. So, did you want to say a final thought, Councillor Phillips?
Yes, just a final thought on the whole waste thing. I mean, it's been a moving target. We made decisions based on the best information we had at the time. And from 6 years ago, because I was part of that 6 years ago, it's always been a moving target, with the end goal being EPR. That was the end goal. We knew it was coming. We wanted to be prepared for it so that we could take advantage of the province bringing in an EPR program. And the one other comment, you had talked about councillors, being responsible for finances, being fiscally responsible. Speaking for myself, I mean, that's whenever we're making decisions, that's probably the primary decision, is how much is it going to cost? How much is it going to yield in results? And then we weigh the pros and cons, saying, is this worth spending the money on? Is it worth not spending the money on? Like waste, it cost more in the beginning to get everything up and going, and once we got it to a balance in 2024, and with EPR coming in 2025, that will actually reap benefits for us. So sometimes those decisions that looked poor 6 years ago were lined up for something that's going to happen in 2025. So, and it's hard to convey that information sometimes, and that's why we have everything's being live streamed, everything's being done so that background information can be tapped into, but sometimes it's dry, boring listening.
Thank you, Councillor
Thank you.
Phillips. Would you mind resending your original email with the questions on it, so that we have it? I don't have to go through and find it. If you could, even if you retyped it, I really appreciate that. Okay, yeah, if you wouldn't mind redoing that. So, that's okay. The answer is yes, and so thank you very much. Have a great day. Thank you very much for your time. So, moving forward with the agenda then, we have adoption of the previous minutes, 5.1. Did anybody see any additions or changes that need to be done to those minutes? Seeing none, Councillor Caprero?
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we adopt the regular council meeting minutes of September 19th, 2023.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. So as there is no business coming from the delegation from the Rocky Taxpayers Association, I'll move forward on to old business. So old business, we have the RFD.
Going back to the delegation to have a discussion on that, whether we are choosing to, once we get the email, what's the next steps going forward? What's our ask of them in? Is that not where we are going with that?
Certainly, I thought we would wait until we got the email and then have a discussion following that. They didn't ask us anything. They just asked us questions, they presented. There's no business arising out of the delegation, so.
Yeah, so your worship, there should be a resolution in some form just to acknowledge the delegation, so it could be as simple as that council thanked the RTA for their presentation, and we'll wait for their email request.
Okay. Would someone like to make that motion?
Sure, I will be happy to make the motion to thank the Rocky Taxpayers Association, specifically Kevin Stalker and Alfred Von Hollen for their presentation, and we will respond to the email once we
Receive it.
receive it, yes.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. So now moving forward to old business, we have the RFD for the fire truck location, and I see Mr. Schwader is in front of us. And also today, we have Ken, pardon? Ken Wedman from, I would have got there, from the Rocky Fire Department, Clearwater County umbrella.
Representing the Rocky Firemen's Association.
Thank
today.
you.
Thank you for inviting me back.
So,
So
Mr.
I'll
Schwader, did you
kind of
want to
give a
start?
brief history here. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. At the September 19th meeting, I presented an RFD in regards to a proposed location for the 49 fire truck display in front of the present fire hall. At that meeting, Council requested to have a meeting with the Firemen's Association. That is why Mr. Wedman is here today to answer any questions that council may have in regards to the proposed display for the fire truck down by the fire hall. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much. I don't see anybody with their lights on. Councillor Phillips, did you want to ask a question?
Yes, just thank you again for coming back in and presenting to us and being able to answer some questions. So the biggest thing we wanted to make sure that was understood by the firemen, by the association, is that if the display goes there and down the road or down the future, we have aging infrastructure, we have aging buildings that, may require relocation of some services or buildings, that if in the future, if the fire hall had to get moved from that location, that this structure would still be there, or would need to be moved in the future because of changing some of our assets. We just wanted to make sure that, you're very aware that that is a potential. It may happen, it may not happen, but it may happen, and we just wanted to make sure that the association was aware of that.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. Yeah, that's why in my initial presentation, I was kind of hoping you guys would ask more of that. It is a modest structure. It is literally a garage package that we are locally sourcing. And yes, a garage is a garage, and you ask any farmer to move a garage for you, and they would be there with what they have in the back 40, and it can be moved. So yeah, we fully understand, and that's why if you Google antique fire truck displays, there are ones that are completely glass enclosed, and they are amazing. They're probably close to $750,000 plus. We are looking to keep our budget well under $100,000 because we realize that, yes, this is an aging, don't have to tell us it's an aging building with leaking roof and leaking walls, and it will need to be replaced eventually, but there has been no discussion, as far as I know, of replacing that, and that puts our timeline at well over 10 years. And yeah, like I said, it's a simple garage package with lots of windows that can be easily relocated.
So, I'm actually glad that you came because I really was hoping that you and the museum would partner up together. I know that the Caroline Museum has a whole fire display really nicely located on their site rather than like on Main Street where the fire bays are.
Yep.
And I know how important it is. Like I hear, not that I know, I hear how important it was to all of the Rocky Firemen's Association for, you know, their dedication. It's a symbol of their sacrifices they put from their family, their jobs, their personal time. You know, there's lots of trauma. I don't want to get the letters in the wrong order. Anyways, and so you know, I recognize that. My concern was why we sent it to administration is that garage sheds packages are not allowed on front lawns, and there's a lot of rules around it.
Yep.
And so, like really after the discussion from last week, or last time we talked about it, it goes against our bylaws. And once you make an exception to a bylaw for one situation, then it opens it up to all kinds of other issues. And it's a concern of mine because I like the bylaws that we make and rules that we make to be like fair and equal to everyone. And so I understand, I hear why you want to put it right adjacent to the fire hall. I also have some concerns with security of it there, and I realize that nothing is secure in Rocky, and if that's not secure there, then nothing's secure anywhere. And so, like, I can already hear that. I can hear that from you, even though you haven't said it. But there has been, you know, there have been some issues, and I just really feel strongly that if you partner with the museum, you know, we've just given them a large portion of land. You know, it could be still accessible. Like a lot of people would still see it. You know, it would support the museum. It would support you. I'm all about partnershiping together. And so I wondered if you had yet talked to the museum and talked to your members about if that would be something, if this doesn't work here, that would be acceptable to the Fire Association.
First, the backtrack to you. You've referenced Caroline a few times.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with Caroline Fire Hall. It's about the size of this room.
Yep.
And I can't speak for them, but I can speak facts that there is no room for display at their fire hall. Also, the Caroline Museum and that display, which I know you're talking about,
Yeah.
is very visible from the highway with lots of traffic. You take the Rocky Museum, is not very visible. No offense to the museum people and to those that promote it. It is not well known. It's not in a high visible area, which also goes back to the security and the vandalism. I know, I believe it was Councillor Boniface had also mentioned the green space by the arena. Our concern is these areas are quite prone to vandalism and to vagrancy and to just no goodingness. Whereas the fire hall down the street is a consistently high traffic area of people coming and going constantly. We have, as far as I know, besides a very targeted defacing of the mural at the library, that is all the vandalism that I'm aware of in any recent years there, whereas the museum area is prone to drug paraphernalia. Yeah, the curling rink, yes, it's high traffic to a lot of people that do no good and lurk in times that they shouldn't. So that's why we feel that this area is still better. It is still a high visibility for security, for promotion. Also, sorry, I lost my train of thought. What else, what other points were you?
So really, I'm asking,
Oh.
because have you partnered with the museum?
No,
And
we
so your
haven't.
answer is that you don't feel the museum has enough traffic and it's not very visible, but don't you think that this partnership would improve that and it would be good for both of you?
No, I think it would be throwing a blanket on a beautiful piece of our history.
Okay.
And
And thank you for your honesty. I really appreciate that because, we're getting asked lots of questions from different groups and I always like to see groups working together.
And as for the land use bylaw, unfortunately, if you are not willing to make an exception for something beautiful, for concerns that Joe Blow might want to put a sea can in his front yard, I have read the land use bylaw, and a simple connection of the roof would clarify or make this in addition to the main building, and there'd be in compliance with the land use bylaw.
Mr. Schwader, is that one of the
That's
options
correct,
that
yeah,
you?
we did talk to the Firemen Association earlier regarding connecting that building. Building inspector would get involved as well, but at the same time, we did talk to the Firemen Association as an option for that, so, yeah.
The initial concern was that it would have to be a full, like, built-on addition, but with clarification on there, like a simple breezeway roof, because doing the full-on addition would drive the cost up considerably, whereas the simple structure, monument display would tie it into that building, yeah, as per, I can't remember I did have it written down, but I forgot my notes.
That's perfect, because that's not your job, we're totally happy with what I just wanted to ask your opinion and see, like if we could kind of come to a compromise, but I see that you're very steadfast in what you would like to see. Councillor Phillips?
Yes, and your passion for this project is admirable for sure. We're looking at a rich piece of Rockies history, something that's been around for, since 1949. It's deserving of having a display, and to me, I just wanted to make sure that the Firemen's Association was aware that potentially down the road that may be a consideration that we have to move it. You're doing the fundraising for this project, and again, thank you for doing that. To me, I would be in favor of this location just because, we've done our due diligence to make sure that you're aware that should we have to move that fire hall, that will become an issue, and that could potentially be 5, 10, 20, or never. Maybe we might keep it there forever, so, yeah.
You don't want to
I'm
hear
in
that
favor.
either, do you?
I like our dirty, stinky, smelly little fire hall. It looks like a fire hall, it feels like a fire hall.
Okay, does Councillor Hutchinson?
I feel very strongly that this is a great place for it. I like the idea that the community enhancement in the area brings into that area, which normally you don't typically drive by, but it gives you a point of interest. And as for the amendment, everything has to come back through council, so whether, another group, somebody else chooses to put something, it's always gonna come back through council, so, having said that, I'd be prepared to make a motion if.
Go ahead.
Okay, be it resolved that council approves the location for the display at the fire hall located at 5920 52th Street, and administration bring forward an amending bylaw to the LUB for council's consideration if required.
Thank you very much. Is there any further discussion on this motion at this time? So I just wanted to point out that 2 members of council are not here today, and I certainly would like to hear their opinion on it. So I'm just wondering if we could postpone that motion until the next council meeting so that every councillor could be in attendance.
I don't see the need for it. We've had this discussion once before and asked for the Firemen's Association to come back. I'm gonna say it, our council meetings are scheduled a year in advance, and unfortunately, other members aren't here, but we do have enough for quorum, so I would like to go forward with it.
Thank you very much. So I do have a question for Mr. Schwader. So when we pass this motion, will it be adjacent with a breezeway, or will it be standalone?
That's why in the motion I've got if required. It all depends if the Firemen Association comes with a breezeway or if it's a standalone. If it's a breezeway, I won't be bringing an amendment to the bylaw back. But if there is no breezeway and it's a standalone, I would have to bring the amendment back.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for all your time and help on that. If there's no other questions or comments on the motion at this time, seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. And so thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing the next steps.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. We appreciate this.
Okay, thank you. Have a great day. So moving forward, we are on old business, and we are in 7.2, discussion on service level dates. Mr. Kraus?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. So as council's aware from just emails in the past week, the service level is currently scheduled for November
10th and 9th and 10th, 8th, 9th, and 10th.
10th. And there's been a request because of a councillor not be able to make it, to move those dates, so all of council could attend. So we
Yeah.
would, and I believe the dates of November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd
Yeah.
were brought up. So we're just looking for direction from council if you wish to move those dates.
So I would like to keep those dates the same. I have a number of conflicts that don't work with the change dates. I have to be at things that I booked, like Councillor Hutchinson just said, a long time ago. And so unfortunately, if Councillor Auld is unable to attend because of things that came up, like Councillor Boniface and Councillor Shippold couldn't attend today, then I think that's just, there's no, penalty on him. It's just that I'd like to keep those dates there as I've made appointments and meetings. Would anybody else like to address that? Councillor Hutchinson?
I'm just curious on the 15th, 16th, and 17th. Or is that getting too close to budget?
So those dates weren't presented to us.
The further it goes, it makes it tougher on budget, so it just, I mean, if there's changes to the draft budget, then we would have to go revisit the draft budget and reconfigure it. So actually, the sooner the better for these discussions.
So does anybody have a problem with leaving it on the 8th, 9th, and 10th, besides Councillor Ald's got some conflicts? Councillor Hutchinson, do you have a
I was
problem
just-
with leaving it on those dates?
It would be nice for, especially for service level.
So that's a yes, you have problems
Yes.
with that?
I'm
Okay.
just giving an alternative. What about the 30th, 31st, November 1st? The Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
No. I'm not here on the 30th. On the 31st, Councillor Caprero?
When is our draft budget dates again? I'm just wondering if it's possible, do we maybe push those out a little bit and maybe try to work with the 14th, 15th, 16th of November? I think it's important that all of council is there for service level.
So, Your Worship, the budget meeting dates are December 6th and 7th, and that's already probably cutting it close to have budget passed in December.
Sorry, if I
Sorry,
can,
Councillor
if I can make
Phillips?
another suggestion, if you're busy on the 30th, correct, Mayor?
I'm waiting to see what day the throne speech is, because I am
Okay.
attending that, and as far as I understand, it's on the 30th or the 31st.
I was thinking if we could make the 31st, 1st, and 2nd work possibly.
So like the first I have conflicts, the second I have conflicts, the third I have conflicts. It's pretty much a crappy week. I'm so sorry, I didn't make it up. I have a calendar right here. So, like I can make the weekend of the 15th, 16th, 17th work like one of the counselors suggested. I don't have any conflicts there yet. But if it's pushing it too tight for administration, then I don't think that's the best idea either. Do we want to push it to the 15th, 16th, 17th?
I think that's pushing it too late
Okay.
for
So-
administration to get everything done for budget.
So unfortunately, the 8th, 9th, and 10th then, which are already scheduled. Sorry, Mr. Kraus, did you have a question, or are you just trying to clarify the dates? Yeah.
It depends, if there's big changes, I'd have to, like, I'll probably already be drafting the budget, so I'd have to go in and make changes. It just depends on if there was changes, how big they are. So,
Can I-
Okay, so
can I
it's back
throw-
to council.
Can I throw another suggestion?
Yes?
How about November 12, 13, 14?
12th is a Sunday.
Yes, I realize that.
Counselor All, does that 12th then still affect you? That would just move it 3 days then, Mr. Kraus. Do you think the 12th, 13th, 14th would be suitable?
Yeah, your worship, we can make that work.
So then we'll just move the committee of the whole. We won't have one that week on the 14th.
I would think we could still have that committee of the whole meeting. It would just be it would be a long day for us, but I think we could still have that meeting.
After 3 days of service level, I don't think I want to extend my day into a committee of the whole. We could just move it. Are there a lot of things already scheduled for the 14th?
Your worship, I believe we have 2 items scheduled for that currently.
Could we maybe move the committee of the whole meeting to the November 28th?
Yeah, that's
That's just a
council's- yep.
suggestion. If we move the committee of the
Yeah.
whole meeting to the 28th, would that work? I just do think it is important to have all council here for
Yeah,
for
I hear
service
what you're
level, for
saying,
sure.
and it's unfortunate that things come up, right?
So am I hearing consensus that the 12th, 13th, 14th works and then the 28th for the committee of the whole meeting?
Mr. Kraus, would those dates work for administration, or is that's only 3 days later?
Your worship, so the time frame works fine. We'll be bringing staff in on Sunday.
Okay.
Um,
So let's do two separate questions then. Counselor Phillips, let's make a motion separately that the 12th, 13th, and 14th is the new set of dates, and separately move the committee of the whole somewhere else.
okay, so
Do
ju-
we need
Just
a
so
motion?
council's aware, we might have to change venues, because we don't know the availability of Walking Eagle on those dates, so.
So does administration want to get back to us?
Well, if they're not available for those dates, we'll have to just move either to the rec center or chambers.
Okay, so
Yep.
did you want to make a motion to move
Yes,
the dates?
I will make a motion that we move the service level dates to November 12th, 13th, and 14th, and the location to be determined.
Thank you very much. I still think they should stay on the original dates. And without two counselors here consulting their calendars, because those alternate dates weren't given ahead of time, I would like to just put that out there. So if there's no further discussion on that motion, we can call that to a vote. All in favor of that motion? And those opposed, and so that's carried. And so we need a motion to move the committee of the whole from the 14th to another date. Can we hold off on that motion until we find out what's happening with service level, or it's in stone and we have to move that to somewhere else? Can we just put those agenda items on a different committee of the whole meeting?
Your worship, I think I would have to recall what we have slated for there before I can
Okay.
answer that.
Okay, so-
If you want to take a 5-minute recess, I can let council know what's scheduled for
Do we
that.
have to decide
Oh,
that?
no, she just informed me what I have on my wall.
Do we have to decide that today about the committee of the whole meeting, aside from that we are canceling it?
No, you don't need to decide today.
Okay, so would just make a motion to cancel that meeting for the 14th, and we'll revisit it at the next meeting when all the counselors are here?
Would it be to cancel it or just move it to a different date?
We
I think-
can't set the date, so.
No, and the date could be to be determined to a different
Yep.
date.
But
You- you-
it's best just to cancel it, right, and then redo it later?
So your worship, why don't we just put it on the committee of the whole agenda for next week? And
Postpone it?
And council can discuss a future date then.
Okay. So does somebody want to make that motion that we put it on, do we need to we should make a motion for that? I'll make a motion that we put the committee of the whole, that we're moving it from the 14th onto the next agenda on the October 17th. Right? Because it has to be at a meeting.
Yeah, your worship, or it can be discussed at the committee of the whole, and then.
We still
It's up-
can't vote on it until the 17th.
No, you can't vote on it, but it's fine, but if you want to.
Okay.
So the 17th.
So we'll have
yeah.
discussion on the 10th, and then we can vote on the 17th. All in favor of that motion? And, sorry, any further questions or comments about moving it, the discussion of it, until the 10th at the committee of the whole? Seeing no further discussion, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So now we're on to new business, and I see we have Renee and Mr. Schwader in front of us today to talk about the RFD for bylaw land use. And so please proceed.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good afternoon, everyone. The town received an application for a land use bylaw amendment for Northwest 3439 7 west of the 5th. The civic address on that property is 7215 60th Street. The application was to rezone it from future development district to highway commercial, with an additional amendment to the highway commercial district, adding freight and transportation depot to the list of uses. As other statutory plans are impacted by that request, other amendments would also be required, which include the intermunicipal development plan, the municipal development plan, and North Area Structure Plan. Just to comment on the Riverview Outline Plan, that's a non-statutory document, so it's not included in the amendments. I just also wanted to mention that the applicant is here, as well as the tenant on the land, so, okay.
And so the, I had two questions, if that's okay.
Sure.
My first question was access, because we're converting this into future development. Will the access then be from the north side, so the Highway 22 intersection down the road? Or will access be granted from the residential area on the south side?
Yeah, so the rezoning is to go from future development district into a highway commercial district. And the access would be from the north side where it currently is.
Okay, perfect. And then, because we just recently discussed developing across that street, in that area there, my question would be, what is the protection of future economic development on the west side? Will the trees then, like, because then there's gonna be like sort of more commercial traffic sort of on the back side of that development that we just recently looked at. Will there be any triggers to put in place to?
So based on information from the applicant is that the intention is to move the dangerous goods off the site, and that would reduce the traffic to that area. The other thing is that the zoning would be highway commercial, so if at some point down the road, development permits came in for something other than that, we would have to address the impact of that on traffic
Okay.
and look at the access to that site at that time.
Okay, perfect. I
Okay.
just wanted to
Yeah.
check how that works.
Yeah.
So,
No
I
worries.
didn't have any other questions. Did anyone else on council have any questions about this? Counselor Hutchinson, you had a question or?
No question. So I was just curious, because right now the road that's in place, the gravel road, is sufficient for the traffic flow going in and out. If we moved forward and put that road through, paved it, is it sufficient for highway commercial traffic? Or would we be building to suit to be able to handle that traffic?
So with the current use that's on site, the road, I did consult with engineering, and the road is sufficient for the current use on that site.
So we
For
wouldn't,
future development, that would be a condition of development permit. We'd kind of revisit that at that time and see if, like, let's say a strip mall with a number of different stores were going onto the site. That would be something that we could potentially address through the development permit process. And one of the things that could be done is maybe, depending on what development was done on the west side of the road, is treating it as a local improvement to pave that road, or whether we could do it under a development agreement.
so to change this use and to move forward in the project, we don't have to do anything with the road. The engineers say that it's sufficient?
Based on the current use, the road is sufficient. With any kind of intensification of that parcel, or if there was a need, or if there was an impact to the traffic or the loads that were going onto that site, we would have to revisit and see if, you know, there may be required upgrades, but we would consult with our engineering department and get details as to the weight of the trucks and whatnot that would go on site.
And that would all be done through development permit later on?
That's right.
Okay. Does that answer any questions you had? I'm really excited. I can't wait to see what they do up there. Yeah. Counselor Phillips, did you, oh, sorry, I thought you were trying to grab my attention.
I don't have any further questions. I was just prepared to make a motion.
I don't see any comments or questions on the table, so we'll go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that council give first reading to amending bylaw 2023/13, a bylaw to amend the municipal development plan, North Area Structure Plan 94/01 LU, and land use bylaw 2020/19 as presented, and that administration set a public hearing date for November 7th, 2023 at 1 p.m. in council chambers.
Thank you very much. And so I see no further questions or comments on that motion, and I'll call that to a vote. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried, so that's great. So thank you very much for
Thank you,
presenting.
Your Worship.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much for
Council.
attending today. I appreciate your concerns for your development. So we'll move forward on the agenda then. Correspondence for action, Parkland Regional Library System, 2024 proposed budget 9.1. And Counselor Phillips, you're on the library board, was that something you wanted to address?
I can address it. This was presented at the last Parkland Regional Library Board meeting, and it was passed there, and that, from there it goes on to each participating municipality to be amended for their budgeting process. It's about a 5%, just under 5% increase is what the Parkland Board is asking for. Of course, you know, staffing, utility costs, operations, day-to-day operations are just costing more to do in this organization, so that's the reason for the request.
And so, Mr. Kraus, this directly affects our budget for next year. Is this a service level? Like, would this be something we have to decide today, or do you want us, can we decide it at budget? Because just because they're requesting it doesn't mean that we have to, it's not triggering us to make a motion, it's just a request, right?
Yeah, so your worship, they are meeting on November 16th, where they'll see what the municipal vote is, so I believe as long as we have that vote in by November 16th, it would be suitable, if I'm correct, Councilor Phillips.
Yes, and should two-thirds of the municipalities agree to do this, it automatically happens, even if the other third hasn't
Right.
either voted yes or hasn't voted at all. So it is something that once the two-thirds majority has been reached, then the budget is approved.
So if we can leave it to service level when everybody's here to discuss it? Because it impacts our budget, right?
Yeah, the only problem with that, your worship, we wouldn't have a council meeting after service level to get our vote in on time.
Okay. Can we move this? Okay. Well, that's too bad that they need to know before our budget's done. So I think that, again, we have counselors missing and that's just part of life. But I'm not prepared to give more money to anybody until we see where we're at with our budget. That's how I feel about that. Does anybody else have any other comments besides Counselor Phillips? Okay, Counselor Phillips, did you want to make a motion?
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we accept the Parkland Regional Library Board's budget as presented and bring that to our budget discussions in December, and we approve this budget.
How much, I do have a question. How much, where does it say how much it impacts our budget? I saw that somewhere, but I can't remember what it
So,
was.
your worship, it's on kind of like their spreadsheet. So the per capita requisition would go
On the
from
green one?
875 to 918 per capita. It's right after the cover page, proposed budget 2024.
Okay, I gotta go back.
It would be 43 cents per capita.
Okay. Counselor Hutchinson, did you have a question or a comment?
A question, yes. Is the library board, is this a county cost share per capita agreement thing?
So, yes, Clearwater County and the Village of Caroline are all members of the Parkland Regional Library Board, so yes, they would see the same request would go to both of those municipalities.
Counselor Hutchinson?
So just for clarity, it's not like the rec board agreement where it's if the $9 was per capita, that it's split between, I'll use the senior housing instead, 30% town, 70.
No.
No?
It's done strictly per capita, so the population of Rocky is increased by our population times 43 cents would be the increase.
So
And
it's-
Clearwater counties would be based on their population.
So it's approximately a $2,800, $900 increase to our budget.
Thank you, that was the number I wanted to know. So you think it's a $2,800 about?
Using 6,700 as our population, yeah, then times the 43 cents per capita, so.
I realize everywhere is getting downloaded and how important libraries are, but I still think that we have a number of important issues in front of us. And I would like to wait. Did you already make the motion? Okay.
Yes, I
So,
did.
sorry for saying that. So if there's no other questions or comments on that, I can call that to vote. All in favor of that motion? And those opposed? And that's carried. So moving forward in the agenda, the Rocky South 4-H Beef Club Rural Safety Program. I thought we discussed this previously. Is this not a brochure?
Yeah, your worship, we get this annually. Last year,
Okay.
council did not participate in this program. so.
Is there any questions or comments on this item? I feel that it's not something we need to participate in. Counselor Hutchinson.
I would agree with you too.
So we'll just make a motion then that Rocky 4-H Beef Club Rural Safety Program has been presented, and we are not moving forward with the program. Is that proper? I don't want to do the information thing because we took that seminar and it's really changed my idea of how to make the proper motion now.
Yeah, well, or except for information in the Roberts rules is really referring to reports.
Okay.
Not so much letters, so I think council will be fine to accept it for information.
Okay.
Because it's a letter, but.
Okay, so I will amend my motion to say that we accept that for information. Any, it was a really good seminar. Anybody have any questions or comments on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. So then moving forward to 9.3, World Teacher Day. So I looked up the policy statement, and I feel like the whole world's doing red tape reduction, and then we have a policy where we can't just move forward with a straightforward proclamation presented by someone who represents the teachers in our community. And so I'm just asking today if we could, just for this one time until we have opportunity to discuss the proclamation policy, it does fall in those guidelines. If you've looked at it and read it, it does fall inside those guidelines. It's supporting teachers in our community, and it's bringing attention to an issue and helping improve quality of life for teachers, and putting teachers it's a positive thing for our community. It addresses all the teachers in our community, as well as not only the Wild Rose teachers, which is where it was presented from, but also from those others. So I would like to move forward and make a motion that we can accept the proclamation and make it as per the letter from the nice fella from the Teachers Association. Does anybody have any questions or comments on that motion? Councillor Hutchinson.
I didn't get a time to completely review the proclamation policy, but I just definitely think on a go-forward basis that we maybe need to review that ourselves and
Yeah.
set our boundaries as to where and what we're proclaiming, because like you said, they're coming fast and furious all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great idea. I've also let him know that we need like a better timeline, but seeing as it's Thursday, it's on my calendar at home. It's kind of like it's not like a secret thing. We're supporting teachers, but I definitely agree. We need to review and be aware of the proclamation policy, because it's been a while since I've seen it. And we just did a railroad proclamation last month, so. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so I guess I will call that to a vote. All in favor of the Teacher Day proclamation? And no opposed? And that's carried. And so that is 9.3. I think before we go through the next things, if we wanted to take just a brief recess for a few minutes, cognizant of our time, but that now would be a good spot. Thank you very much. We'll just have a recess. Thank you very much. Welcome back to the Town of Rocky Mountain House, October 3rd, 2023. So we have a number of correspondence for information. Are there any items there that anyone would like to bring to our attention? Seeing none, would anyone like to make a motion? Counselor Phillips?
I will make a motion that we accept items 10.1 through 10.10 as information.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. So 11.1, the mayor's report. Does anybody have any questions or comments about that report? Seeing none, would anyone like to make a motion? Counselor Caprero?
I will make a motion to accept the mayor's report from October 3rd, 2023 as information.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? And opposed? There's none. That's carried. I learned some things. I have to, it's gonna take me a while to like relearn my process. So counselor reports. Counselor Hutchinson, did you want to highlight anything from your report?
Yes, please.
Yes, absolutely.
So I just wanted to go through a few things. We did the last Market on Main, we're going back to August because of our timing here, but the last Market on Main with the county and the town. And as our delegation this morning made comment that the people, I believe the public are liking that idea. I have some ideas to bring forward for service level on how we can improve that. The Terry Fox Run, we had gotten a letter of thanks from the coordinator of that. That was a good event. It was a small turnout, about 41 participants, but maybe that again is something in the future that the town can participate in a little bit more and continue with the grant or whatever they need. Councillor Phillips and I went to the ANF, Silkwood Friendship Center's banquet, and that was about 150 participants from the friendship centers across the province. There was one thing that they did at the end which really struck out to me, and it was they pair up with a different friendship center and present gifts that represent each of them. And that was kind of something Councillor Phillips and I were discussing on, maybe that's something that we can start doing, maybe start with the county and have a team building between the two councils and give a offering just to start conversation and that sort of thing. The firefighter recruitment ceremony, Mayor and I attended that one, and
The graduation.
yeah, and it was very heartwarming, and just to see the camaraderie between the people there. Councillor Melhoff was very, very passionate in what she spoke about, but that's something near to her heart, so that was a great night. And then the Truth and Reconciliation Walk was just this past Saturday. I was very pleased to see our new staff sergeant attend, as well as she had coordinated to have a RCMP and his Red Surge attend with, I think there was the 2 school resource officers and I think 2 other members of the RCMP that attended. So it was nice to see them out. And I think that's about it. Oh, no, sorry, it's not it. Rocky Community Learning Council meeting. They've got a whole bunch of new programs coming out. They're starting a lunch hour series tomorrow in partnership with AHS and the PCN. They're free sessions that, there's one tomorrow for a healthy moving more, and the next one I think is November 1st on healthy eating. They've also brought their Let's Chat programs in. So one's about tax deductions for newcomers to Canada, and credits for Indigenous people, and taxes for youth, young adults, and disability tax credits. They've got their regular courses going, a free workshop coming up, New Futures, which is job transitioning and career planning, financial basics, that kind of thing. And I haven't got all the details on it, but apparently the GEDs will no longer be available after May of 2024. And they haven't said yet what is going to be the program that will be replacing the GEDs. And we do a lot of work around the community. giving support for GEDs. I know there is.
Like upgrading so you can get into college?
Yeah, your general education diploma, graduating.
They've
Yeah.
changed it, the name of it.
Yeah, so there, there is a group that has been going out and working with the First Nations for that program. So once there's an updated program in place, I will bring that forward to let everybody know.
So all those, you didn't attach those programs here, they can be found on the website?
Yep.
Rocky Learning Council website?
Yes.
Thank you.
Facebook page is on there as well, so there's lots of good opportunities that are ongoing. Don't know if I told you before, but the LPN course is starting its second year, and the healthcare aid course was canceled because there wasn't the enrollment for it, which is sad. So hopefully we can bring that back in the spring.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Councillor Hutchinson? Seeing none, I'll go to Councillor Phillips. Did you want to add anything from your report?
Just a couple highlights. The FCSS board, as of September, had allocated all of their funds. We were just waiting on the three councils, the town, the Village of Caroline, and Clearwater County, to approve the extra funds that were allocated, or the matching funds from what the government had allocated. And if all three municipalities do that, then it should have another $26,000 of grant money they can allocate before December 31st. We talked about the Parkland Regional Library budget, and the Rocky Library Board budget was looking at about 3.6% increase. That's what the Rocky Library Board is going to be asking of the town. And that'll be also the town, county as well. And
So it'd be
that's-
like 8.5% increase for both together.
Well, 5 for Parkland and 3.6 for the Rocky Library.
So
And the park.
8.6, right? Would be the increase overall?
I'm not sure if it works that way, but
Doesn't work that way?
no, it doesn't work that way, because they're two
Oh,
separate. They're two
5% for their budget and 3% for their
Yeah,
budget.
they're two
It's not a-
two
okay.
separate budgets, so. And, the Asokwin Native Friendship Center's AGM, that was quite an interesting event. It was very, very eye-opening, lots of attendees from across the province. It was very well attended, and Councillor Hutchinson and I did our best to promote the town and our area.
How many friendship centers were there in attendance beside ours?
Can't remember.
Don't you remember?
Yeah, there was quite a few, yeah.
Thank you very much for your report. Does anybody have any questions for Councillor Phillips? Seeing none, Councillor Schipelt's not here today. Does anybody have? So we'll move forward. I'll make a motion to accept for information the council reports for October 3 for 11.2. Any questions or comments on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. No opposed. So moving forward with the action list, Mr. Kraus, is there anything you wanted to point
no.
out to us?
No, thank you, Your Worship. So the only item on the list that is still in progress is the criminal record checks at the RCMP building, and as let council know, we do have the line in now. And we were just working with the staff sergeant there of putting equipment in for this, and as council knows, we'll bring in the fees and rates bylaw back to council for approval of those fees.
It's called budget. I think he's gonna be busy with that. Would somebody like, if there's no questions about the action list or comments, seeing none, would someone like to make a motion? Councillor Hutchinson?
I'll make that motion to accept the action list for October 3rd, 2023.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? And opposed, seeing none, that's carried. Confirmation of the committee of the whole meeting. And so that is, we have nothing for, yes, we do, because today is the 3rd, right? I'm sorry. So we do have items listed on the agenda for the 10th. So we need to make a motion to have a committee of the whole for October 10th. Is that what? To confirm the meeting? I'll make that motion. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Do we have any administrative inquiries today? Seeing none. Do we have any notices of motion? Seeing none. We have no closed session items today. And so that concludes our meeting. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.